What's good? Bigger back for another episode. We back. It's been a while. We missed you. Hope you missed us. So, what's up? What's the topic for the day, gents? Before that, we have a special guest.
Amazing. Special is an understatement, I feel.
Oh.
When I say special, it's just one of those specials. You know how like in calls there's like special
Half
this
price.
is like bonus.
Okay.
Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome.
Do you want to tell us your name?
Sure. My name is Tekay.
Yeah.
And I'm originally from New Zealand. Moved over here a very long time ago. I don't want to give away my age. You know? Very long time ago.
Won't get into that. That's amazing. All right, in a nutshell, tell us a little bit about TK. Like for someone who sees you and says, "Oh, this is an amazing person." What about you do we not know that you want us to know in like 5 seconds?
I think that I come across as being a person that really has things together, really put together, really happy.
Yeah.
But deep down, I've had a lot of struggles, and from a very young age, I learned how to build a facade, and that facade kept me safe for a very long time.
Yeah.
Until it didn't. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. I look like somebody who's really got it together, and I'm really getting there now. But for a very long time, it was just a facade.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's
That's
amazing.
dope. Everyone has a story to tell.
Yeah.
And yours just happens to be a facade that you've built on, and now you're achieving or surpassing the facade itself.
Yeah, but I had to really lose the facade, and there was like a pinnacle moment in my life where I decided that I was just gonna like bust it open and like be like, "This is a lie,
Yeah.
it's a giant lie," and I
Yeah.
thought that it was going to be, the undoing of me, and I was really willing to just lose it all because I felt like, in my real word, I had sort of lost everything anyway.
Yeah.
And the only thing I had left was people's perception of me, particularly on social media. And then one day I just opened up, and then it was like this rebuilding happened.
Yeah. Powerful.
That's amazing.
And you know what? This links into our episode. But before that,
Episode 7.
introductions.
It's your boy Nez, back again.
So
Back
brief.
again.
It's Drew. Yo, when you see me, talk to me nice.
And you know the name, Big Jerry right here. What's happening?
AKA Mr. Zambia. Let's
Fact
go.
about Jerry.
Nah. I got one, but I know he doesn't want me to share.
Every episode, let me just run TK out. Every episode, apparently there's a new fact about me that I didn't know about myself. So I'm just saying. But
Andrew
today
has all the
they're gonna
facts.
be at the best behavior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm open to it if you guys want to read them.
TK, I thought it was me and you against this. What happened? What you mean?
Don't worry, the list is always building.
Fine. I'll let that one slide.
Yeah. That's all right. Okay.
So, gents.
Today's episode, what's it about?
Episode 7.
Episode 7.
Today's episode 7.
I like that number.
Wow.
Yeah, 7 is an amazing number. Yeah.
That's dope that I get to be on episode 7. Look
I,
Yeah,
to- I
did you
told
look
you
at that?
this is not a special. This is like a bonus. This is like something more than just special that we have you on episode 7, which happens to be
Embracing your
Exciting.
story.
embracing your story, embracing your journey, and keeping it together.
Okay. Don't worry, everyone. I'm just as shocked as you. I'm learning this.
Come on. All right. So obviously, embracing your story and your journey is a little bit vague. So, what does when someone says I've got a story to tell? What does that mean to any of you?
I got a good one. When someone says, "What's your story?" To me, what comes is, what experience have you been through that has led you to this point or this moment in time? Like, what have you seen? What have you experienced? What makes you different? What makes you you? What makes you the current you? Or what makes you the best version of you right now?
That's deep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Mine's very similar to that. It's like if somebody says like, "Oh, what's your story?" To me, it makes me feel like I have to get all the highlight. It's like a highlight reel, all the things that make up me. Yeah, that's kind of. But also, if I hear it with somebody else, they're like, "Oh, what's your story?" Honestly, I don't know if it's because I'm a little bit cynical, but I always think like, I wonder if this guy's gonna tell the truth.
Trust issues. I hear trust issues.
I've got a question, right?
Yo.
So TK spoke about the facade that we can have sometimes in life. So when it comes to our story, is there like a story that is deep rooted to us, and then is there another story that we tell people? You know what I mean? Is there like a projection of a story, and then is there a real story, or is there just one story?
I'll say definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. You will always have a side story or an immediate story to tell everyone, not the real story. Because the real story is like, think of it as a movie, right? When you're watching a movie and it's a movie that you've never heard of, you're following the main character.
Yeah.
Through their journey, you're learning about them. They've been through all the experiences. Let's say it's an action movie. They've been through all the experiences, and then towards the middle of the movie, they have to go rescue someone. So now they have to build all these sets of skills. In the meantime, the person at the end, or the bad guy, doesn't see all that happening.
True.
They just hear, oh, this guy's coming for you, and that's it. So they've built the whole story, and what the bad guy hears is, oh, this guy's just coming for you. So he hears the very short version, or he hears something along the lines of, oh, some guy is coming for you.
Yeah.
So he hears not really the full story or the actual story. He just hears a story.
So pretty much there's not one story. There's many stories in someone's life
Many stories.
that all add up to one story.
Yeah, I also think it kind of depends on the platform, right?
Yeah.
So like if it's like a one-on-one conversation, I'm telling you my story,
Yeah.
then it's obviously going to be very different to if I'm sharing my story on Instagram or
True.
TikTok.
True. Very true.
So that depends on what version of the story. There's different variations to every
True.
story, of course, but if I'm having an intimate conversation, then you're going to get to hear the nitty-gritty bits of it. There could be tears and all of that sort of stuff. You know, it's just going to be in time real, whatever I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But then
Sure.
on Instagram, it's going to be a more polished version. So it really depends on the
Yeah.
platform.
Okay.
I think I agree with what you started with, like in regards to like an Instagram reel. It's like an Instagram reel is like snippets of a huge moment, and I think that's what a story can be. So the same way you asked Nez, like, is a story just the real huge thing, or is it just a little bit of, you know, like when someone says, oh, I've got a story to tell, doesn't mean it's a huge thing. And I remember the other time I had a conversation with Nez, because every time I'm talking to this guy, he always gives me a different perspective, right? And I'm like, at the end of the day, there's so many perspectives, but there's the main chunk, all right? There's the main thing, and then you make decisions based off whatever else is present. I don't know if I'm making sense right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think having a story isn't like, it can be big, it can be small. At the end of the day, there's that main aspect of it that defines everything else. That's what I think.
But we're in a social media age where everything kind of like, there's a difference between someone's life and what we actually see on the
Absolutely.
internet, like
Everything
with
is
Instagram as well.
filtered.
Yeah. So how much of, I want to pose a question to everyone. How much of your Instagram is your life?
Zero. I am never on Instagram. If I'm on it, it's by luck or someone sent me a message.
Okay, let's generalize.
You
Let's
sent me
say,
a message.
let's say social media, because Instagram
sure.
is a little bit limited.
But it's the biggest though. It's the biggest like platform today.
TikTok, well, apparently
Well-
I've been doing a lot of research on it, and
Okay.
it
Yeah.
depends on the age group. So,
Oh,
like,
okay.
you know, if you're like 30s and up, then you're on Instagram
Yeah.
mainly. But anyone
Are you calling me
younger
30
than
and up?
that-
Nah.
No,
Just calling shots.
no. I actually, for my business, I had to do a lot of
Yeah,
research on
okay.
it, right? So,
Yeah.
I was actually really interested. I was the same as you, whereas I was thinking Instagram by far top one,
Yeah.
100%. But if you're young, like 16 to like 25-ish, you're on TikTok.
And Snapchat a thing as well.
Yeah, they're on
Yeah.
all
Oh,
the
yeah,
other
true.
forums
Yeah.
as well, but TikTok is their main forum.
Okay.
And that's why I find it very intimidating.
True.
Okay.
But then again, it also goes with trends. Example, threads.
Exactly.
Threads came, and I actually don't know if it's still a thing.
I think it is. I think it's just one of those things where, you know how the Bible describes human beings to be sheep?
Yeah.
So it's like, I told one person, say like, if you walk in a room and there's 10 people, and then I get TK, I'm part of the 10 in the room. I get TK and I'm like, let's come into this room. I'll tell everyone beforehand, like before TK walks into the room, that when I ask you what is this, say it's a banana. I'll show them my apple, but they'll say it's a banana.
Yeah.
And the chances are that 8 out of 10, because I'll ask everyone in the room, what's this? What's it? And they'll all be like, oh, it's a banana, but it's an apple. And when I ask TK, she'll be like, everyone else said it's a banana, so probably it is a banana.
Yeah.
I think that's the same with like all these new trends. It's like a lot of people just hop onto whatever, and like human beings just like, I don't know what that has to do with a story, but I just
it connects because it's just like a story that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk have, because that's for them, that's their journey, that's their story. One of them was like, hey, I can make this better than you, and the other was like, bet. And then Threads came about. So
there you go.
Posing back to the original question, right? How much of my social media is like my life?
yeah.
So how I was talking about the facade and how I broke down the facade and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So do you mind if I get into a story time? Is that okay?
Definitely.
Yeah, sure. Story time, ladies and gentlemen.
So a couple of years ago, basically, in my personal life, my relationship started to break down, and like I thought I was going to marry this guy. We have a child together. We own a home together. Like I was very committed to this relationship.
Yeah.
But no shade to him at all. It just, sometimes things don't work out.
Yeah.
And the story that you build in your life or how you see your future going, it just bottomed out for me. Like I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I had this plan in my head for, where my value is and what I can add to the relationship or to my life and all of this sort of stuff, right? So it just really bottomed out for me.
Yeah.
And I was really fit. I was posting exercise videos twice a week. I had people, and I've always had like a real hang up on my body.
Yeah.
So I had people like commenting like, oh my gosh, body goals, like love your body, blah, 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 blah. And what was so interesting was that I didn't feel like that in myself, but I kept posting and projecting like I was this person, right? And my whole entire value became this thing. And then my relationship started to deteriorate. From there, I just started to lose myself. I wasn't getting joy from working out. Everything just felt like a struggle. And I started to eat bad food, like, comfort food, all of those kinds of things. But I was still trying to keep up the facade on social media. So long story short, essentially, it just continued to get really, really bad. And my mental health was getting worse and worse and worse. My relationship was clearly ending. And I was in a job that I hated. I didn't know how I was going to get out of that job. And basically everything just felt like I'd experienced the best parts of my life already.
Yeah.
And then basically I ended up, I don't know if this is too much, but I ended up having to go to the hospital because I had attempted to do something.
Yeah.
And I hid it from everyone. Like I didn't want anybody to know. I was so embarrassed. Like I felt like it was a poor reflection of me as a mum, everything.
Yeah.
And it was like this for months where I felt like it took so much energy for me to just keep up this appearance. And one night, it was like midnight or something, I just posted up I just started writing like my real life story. And I'm like, I started off with, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life.
Yeah.
And then I just started writing what had happened. So this is my experience. I was driving to work every day. I couldn't stop crying. I get to the basement of the car park. I would like put makeup on, sort my stuff out, kind of berate myself. Like, what are you doing, man? Get your stuff together. And then I'd go inside and I'd do my day. And then I'd go home and I would just be like, this sucks,
Yeah.
And adding all of the other extra things in there, like it was just really bad for me. But I explained everything and none of it made me look glorious at all. I thought everyone was going to read and be like, wow,
Yeah.
I would never do that, Yeah.
But people relate to that though, right? People actually relate to
Not all the time.
sensitivity.
Yeah, not all the time. Like especially like if this is like the raw,
version
yucky
of
parts of your life, and all you know is what you've been telling yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
That's your only audience. Is the voice inside your head, and if you've been struggling with mental health, it's not a nice voice.
Yeah.
No.
So, I was honestly convinced, but at that point I was like, what else? Like what else can happen that's bad? Nothing. And this is such a weight for me to carry. So at this point, I don't care. I don't care if I wake up and everybody's like, I was already at rock bottom and I was just like, well, I've already tried to do this thing. It didn't work out. So I'm just going to expose it, let everybody know that this is what it is.
Yeah.
And at least I won't have to carry this thing around anymore. And then we'll just see where the day takes us. It was really on a whim kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I woke up in the morning and it had like 2,000 shares. Like, it was just wild. I was like, oh my gosh, like the amount of phone calls on my phone, like I just do not disturb my phone and went to sleep.
Yeah.
And like, I remember the first text message I read was from my dad, and he was like, I am so proud of you. Like, he was so proud of me for just, obviously he knew what had gone on, but the fact that I had just opened up about it and decided like, that's it. But from there, the course of my life changed. It was like, I had all these people reaching out to me. Mind you, I was still not in a great place, guys. And all of a sudden, I've got all these people reaching out to me like, hey, I'm sort of going through the same thing as you. And like, that's fine, but it can feel kind of heavy at times,
Okay.
especially if you're not in a great place yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I didn't really sign up for this, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah.
I was just telling you my story. I don't really need yours.
I've got enough on my plate. You do it, you, I'll do me.
Yeah, exactly. But then I had, because my dad has a platform back home in New Zealand. He used to be a comedian.
Yeah.
So then I guess that stirred up a lot of people's like, wow, she's like has a famous dad. Like, they would have had a perfect life. All these kinds of things. So then obviously it became more relatable to people. And then I had like newspapers reach out to me and say, hey, we want to do an interview with you.
Oh, wow.
And
then we reached out to you and thought, nah, I'm joking.
But yeah, and then from there, I just decided that, you know, this is, I don't know, I just sort of fell into this space where I'm like, cool, well, talking about your mental health that can help this many people just to feel normal about themselves. And people were reaching out to me that, like, you know, I also thought had their stuff together.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, wow. I never expected that.
Yeah, never. And like they're saying to me, like, dude, you're making me feel normal. Like,
Yeah.
you made me feel like, okay, it's okay that I feel like this.
Yeah.
And because of obviously that toxic space of social media where they're like, you know, we're only going to show the best part.
Yeah.
This angle, like, I look snatched, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's becoming more and more present where people are showing themselves. But even that, I feel like it's like a curated version of themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just that was the thing that really was a pivotal change in my life. It allowed me to walk into any space, not just on social media, but I remember going to church, right? And I've been to church a couple of times. I didn't grow up in a Christian home or anything like that. And I remember going into this women's group, and I remember, like, I went to church for a little while in New Zealand, but something happened where I kind of felt like I was sort of coaxed into, that's a whole other story. Anyway, so I went to this women's group, and I remember going in, and I had this like stubbornness inside of my head where I'm like, I'm just going to tell them who I really am.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell them that, like, I don't have this perfect Christian life. I swear I do, you know, I don't know, drink, whatever.
Yeah.
But I love God, and I'm here because of that. And if that's our common thing that we have in ground, like common ground, then like that's cool. And yeah, anyways, I went in, and everyone had to go around individually tell like their story, and everyone's like, oh yeah, this is my story, like da 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 da. And then I got around to me, and I'm like, well, this is my story.
And everyone was like,
Yeah, exactly.
are we still in church?
Yeah, exactly. But I just remember like sort of telling myself like, I have spent so long morphing myself into whatever I think is going to make other people comfortable.
Yeah.
And that has just taxed me so much. But also I feel like I'm doing somebody else a disservice, because there may be somebody else in the room that also feels like that. And the minute that I go, hey, well, this is me, guys, so
And they
take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden other people in the room are like, well, this is me too, you know? And I think that was like a really important thing for me to realize, that by hiding myself, I was also encouraging other people to hide.
Yeah.
And by like exposing myself, I was also, you know, allowing other people to do the same thing and to feel normal and to feel like, oh, okay, cool, we can do that. Like, oh, sweet, amazing.
It does sound like you had to come back to your true self in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I had to, you know, you spend such a long time like covering up the parts of yourself that you think are ugly.
Yeah.
And it's like every insult or every little thing that somebody said to you, like you may have been dating a guy when you're 13 or dating a girl when you're 13, and she's like, he or she looks at you and goes, you know what, I don't like your teeth. And then from that day forward,
Carries on.
you're like, I've got ugly teeth, so I'm gonna change this part of me, or like, I don't like when you like get angry so quickly, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. And so then you spend your life trying to like
navigate through all that and try to pickpocket and balance between having those little things that they said and walking a path where they don't see those things.
Yeah, exactly. And you think you're fixing yourself, right?
Yeah.
But you're not. You're just covering up. You're literally just covering yourself. And those things, it's like you're adding layers to yourself to cover it, and it gets heavy.
Like you're living in another person's vision of who you are when you're actually something else.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Which can become very hard, because for how long can you do that?
True.
How long can the person be appeased? The person can change their mind at any moment, which is a very dangerous thing. They could be like, today, oh, I don't like your hair. Tomorrow, oh, I don't like your nails. Oh,
I fix my hair. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you know that kind of thing. So
I think in a world where everyone wants to be someone else but themselves, it's so hard to really find your stance. Like, cause I was talking to one of my mates today, and they told me like, look, everyone is always gonna have something to say.
Yeah.
And a lot of people really struggle to find their identity in something, like be rooted, like stand for something, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because obviously if one moment today Nez is going to tell me, hey man, I don't like it. I remember when I dyed my hair blonde. I think that was the most interesting phase of my life, because a lot of people look at me some type of way. And it was understandable, but some people would talk to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're such you're actually an amazing person. I'm like, what did you think? Is this blonde hair? What do you think?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not you know, but I think like you really embraced your story, and you did amazing. I think put it here.
Thanks for sharing as well.
We have like some we did
cheering.
please go for the right one. Oh man, you're that's
I mean, there's some music. There's some music there. But yeah, thanks for sharing, TK.
Yeah, no problem,
amazing.
guys. Thank you for listening.
No, it's a powerful thing to share, because just like you said, it opens up the room and people become comfortable, because they start seeing, they're like, oh, she's comfortable being herself. I don't have to pretend, carry this facade, carry this image of impressing everyone around me but myself. And then you get comfortable, and then they get comfortable, and then everyone just relaxes and becomes happy. The room becomes much more approachable.
Yeah.
Like, say for example, right, you walk into like the women's group, for example. Like, I went there, and I remember going, okay, well, everyone had like these really mild stories, and then next time I'm telling my story, I'm like crying and stuff, and I'm like, oh well, who cares? Like, it is what it is, and if I can't say it at church, then where can you say it?
That's
True.
amazing.
And it was like, it was one of those things that, you know, it's almost like you sober up from your emotions, and then afterwards you're like, damn, I really just was out here exposing myself, you know. But then it was like a month later that somebody reached out to me and was like, you know, when you said what you said, like I'd actually walked into that space and I did not have my stuff together, and I felt embarrassed, you know. And then you said what you said, it made me feel like, oh man, I got this, you know.
Yeah.
Like, she's been through this and I'm going through that right now, and she's not embarrassed to tell her story at all, because it is what it is, you know, and I shouldn't be embarrassed either. I should really embrace that as well. Yeah. And that was really powerful to me, because I was like, man, I was a little bit embarrassed for a little while there, but you know, it is what it is. You just have to own it. Yeah. And I think those things happen, like where you do expose yourself, and then later you're like, oh, it kind of gives you the ick. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it gives you the ick. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
I've got a follow-up question though. So there's a verse in the Bible that says that God is working everything for our good, right? Which means that this idea that everything that happens in our life kind of works to refine us, or to make us, to shape us into the purpose that God has for our life. So how much of your story, or in another way, do you think that verse has been true for you in your life, in terms of like everything that you've gone through?
Yeah, for sure. Like, honestly, when all of this stuff was happening, I honestly felt like God had deserted me. Like, I was like, there's no way that he's here now, because, man, I was really going through it, you know? Yeah. And I felt like I was losing everything that I'd worked so hard to gain. Like, and if we're just looking at it from a physical perspective, like my relationship, my body, like I was losing all the work that I had put into my life to that point. Yeah. But when I reflect back on it, I'm like, my view and value of myself was so limited. And I had to God had to dismantle that entire facade in order for me to see what my real value is and what I can achieve. Like, I really didn't think that I could be living alone, buy a new car, live in a nice area, provide for my daughter on my own. Obviously, like, he pays child support, guys.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, we're rounding up the boys.
And I really believed that I couldn't do it. I remember having a conversation with my cousin, right? We're real tight. And I went back to New Zealand. I was still in a really bad place. My parents basically said to me, like, get your bum home. Like, we need to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah.
And my cousin was talking to me, and we were just, like, folding clothes in her son's room. She looks at me and she's like, you know, I don't have this relationship with anybody else in my life, right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, and like, you almost took that away from me. And I like, it really hit me really deep, you know?
Yeah.
And then she was like, I don't know why you would do that to, like, us. And then I had said to her, like, it's just because I don't think that I can do it by myself. Like, I really can't see how I'm going to be able to do any of these things. Like, I don't know how I can do that.
Yeah.
And she was like, man, if I know anybody that's capable, it's you.
Yeah.
And I remember that giving me so much power, but I'm also thinking, like, yeah, that's because you don't know.
Yeah, true.
But then seeing where my life is now, I'm like, wow, like, God
So much
really,
grace, hey?
so much grace. Like, I live in Mount Pleasant, guys, okay? If you guys don't know where that is. Exactly. And, like, I wasn't even gonna, anyway, like, it's just amazing. I live 5 minutes away from the river.
Yeah.
I used to walk around that river when my daughter was 2. And I used to go,
Manifested.
please God, let me have a house around here one day.
Amen.
And I
God is
never
good.
thought that it was going to happen that quickly, ever.
Yeah.
I honestly did not. And then it was funny because, like, I'd moved in, maybe I'd been there for 2 weeks, and then I went for a walk finally around the river, don't judge. And I was, like, walking around, and then next when I was, like, got my bearings, I'm like, bro, I used to walk around here and asked to live around here, and I live around here. And, like, wow, he really did that for me. Like, damn, I didn't even think it was going to be that quick. It's like 4 years.
Yeah.
And I already lived there. I thought that it was going to be with, you know, my daughter's dad, but hey, I'll take it.
I've got a question. So I think, like, you owning your story and embracing, I think it's, like, really interesting that some people would tell me, like, my dad would tell me, like, when I told my dad I've got a podcast and everything, like, sometimes I'll be going through so much or whatever it is, I have my own story. And for me, I've always been the person who, like, for you, it took a lot of confidence, a lot of boldness to actually speak and walk the talk, you know, own your story. Just be like, this is my story. I'll own it, you know, take the shame, take the hits, but I know, like, there's grace at the end of this. But for me, it's been like, I've always had fear of letting so much into my space. So, like, Nez will know me. He's gonna be my best friend. But, like, I'll always just be like, you know, I won't ever feel like that's safe. So for someone like me, let me just be the person in this moment. It's the someone like me out there, or myself, right? So, like, how are ways to actually embrace your story? Like, okay, yeah, this is who I am, and own your shame, you know, because that's what the journey is. There's beauty in all the ugliness. Even, like, my brand, that's what the whole meaning of the brand is. Like, the aesthetic of the brand is, like, the beauty in the ugly. Like, that's the journey, you know what I mean? So for someone like me who struggles to own, I struggle to own my journey, you know. Sometimes when I'm doing certain things, I'm the most, I can walk in any room and do anything. I'm confident, but no one will know that I'm, like, within myself, I struggle to embrace
Confidence
myself.
comes with a price.
It comes with the price, mate, but I don't know what question I'm asking right now.
I kind of understand what you're asking.
I've got a follow-up
think-
question as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, to add to what he's saying. So you did say there's the TK that was in that moment that was, you know, leave up to an expectation or a standard that had been created by either self or other people. And my question was, what is the difference between that TK and the TK now for someone that is in that place that you were in, which adds on to what he's saying, you know, in a place where you kind of, like, don't know how to build that boldness and that confidence. How do you think you came up to, like, what are the differences?
That's a great question. thank you.
That's why we have him on this podcast.
Yeah, good question, bro. Thank you. But really quickly, I'll jump.
Yeah, no worries.
So when you were talking, to be honest, what I was thinking of was this Tupac photo of him just coming out with like middle fingers up. Like,
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I just want to be that. Like I just don't want to care. Like I want to be sometimes. So because when I read certain books, I hang out with people like Nez. I feel like I'm about to take over the world. But then there's certain times where like I have flashes of moments where I'm like, I think of things that I can do. Then I just like really withdraw. I just reserve myself. And a lot of people tell me like, bro, like you're so wise or whatever it is. But like I don't really put it out there. I've got so much light in me, but I reserve it.
Yeah, I think it's like just embracing the fact that it might just fall flat on the ground.
Yeah.
You just I think that sometimes it's like it depends on like what that costs you. You know, you have to weigh up what it costs you to retreat. Is it
So
costing you
cost-benefit
too much?
ratio.
Yeah, totally. Like if it's costing you a lot, like if it's wisdom that you're using, you're like, you know what, I need to retreat in this moment because I know that if I do speak about my idea right now, the people that are surrounding me are probably going to limit me because, you know,
They won't
limit
believe in the
themselves.
idea.
Exactly.
God did not.
Yeah, exactly. And so that would be wisdom, right? To just have those conversations with your boy that you know is going to uplift your idea and make you feel like you can take over the world. That's wisdom. But if it's hindering you, if it really is hindering you, and you know that it's hindering you, then you just gotta boss up. And what would Tupac do?
Yeah.
Tupac all the way.
What did Tupac say?
Shout out to Tupac.
But in terms of your question, like what is it? Like there's huge significant differences. Like I feel like you have to like, you know, die to your old self. Like, literally, that's what it.
That's loud. Could you say that one more time? I think I need to hear that like two more times. Eh?
You gotta die to your old self.
Bars.
Bars.
And so yeah, there's a stark contrast between the old TK and the new TK, just in the sense of even if we're just like talking about what I've done, and in contrast to like what I believed I could do and where I am now. Like I started this idea for my business, right, which is activewear, and it is. Shout out to Tekayactive. Follow me.
Tekayactive.
Yeah, put the link in.
So essentially, when I was starting it, it was all happening in this like paperback exercise book, and I brought like coloring pencils in this exercise book from Officeworks, and I remember buying it and being like, "Man, you're such a fool!" Like
Have you got men's collection as well, or it's just female?
Just female for the time being.
out.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Men are really hard to like sort of market. It's completely different. It's not like you can sort of lump it into one because I was thinking that, but it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But I was, but I remember just revisiting it, and I think that people, they get like, you get kind of like caught up in like trying to understand where it's going as opposed to just going, okay, well, I know that I need to do something. Something is better than nothing. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? And you walk into the gym, you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but something's better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so that's all I was doing. The belief piece happened afterwards, but I just moved in the direction that I wanted to go in, aimlessly almost. And then like I really did. I was just like, okay, cool. I don't even know what I'm doing. And I found myself in rooms with people.
Yeah.
I'm like, how'd I get here?
You
know?
Yeah.
Would I be right in saying that the change began within you, within your mind? Began like you had to make the decision first before anything could happen outside of yourself?
I think it happened when I like felt like I'd lost everything, you know, and it was like I was at the bottom of the pit and I needed to get out and I didn't really know how to. And I kept trying to like yell out to people to like help me, like throw me a ladder, man, you know, like help me. And I realized that it was kind of a hole I dug for myself and I needed to get myself out of it. But yeah, it didn't necessarily happen inside of my mind. Honestly, the belief piece happened much later.
Okay.
I think I was just so sick of where I was and so desperate to get out of there that I was just moving. I was like, oh man, I can't stay here. This is horrible. This is awful. It's so uncomfortable. I'm so unhappy. I wake up every day. I don't want to be here anymore, you know? But I look at my kid and I'm like, I owe you a happy mum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and I'm gonna move in that direction no matter what, like, because you deserve that. I don't
Yeah.
even believe I deserve that at that point. Now, obviously, things have changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just did everything that I could. I went and saw doctors. I just did
That's
everything.
amazing.
I just did everything, and I did it shamelessly. Like, I was like, I'm not gonna feel ashamed about none of this stuff. And if anybody thinks that I should be ashamed about this, I'm gonna cut you off.
Yeah.
Like,
Tupac energy right there.
and yeah, that I really had to embrace. The thing is, I had to embrace my story in order to move forward. It's not like I almost felt like I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like I had just lost everything that was of value to me, including my self-image. And then when I started to rebuild myself as the true version of myself that I was also getting to know, and the true version of myself is very capable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the facade that I had built was, I'm not capable.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Powerful.
That's amazing. Honestly, that's powerful.
It's very empowering.
Are we good with the mic there, Jerry? Embrace your story, brother. Embrace your microphone story. Yeah, that's so good. We've got some tech issue with the mic, but we can keep the conversation going. Drew,
Talk to
have
me.
you got anything personal story-wise that you want to add to the embracing your story? Have you had any personal experiences like TK where you've kind of had to embrace your story and
Unfortunately, I'm an open book. I'm like straightforward.
Yeah.
Because I live by thing that's just in my head. When something's in front of me, when there's a challenge in front of me,
yeah,
I don't think I do, and that's how I've been. You can ask some friends of mine. Will be like, we were planning this, and then all of a sudden we said, oh no, let's think about doing this, and I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. So.
You're so lucky that my mic is working again.
there we go.
In case you missed my voice, here it is. So I think for that, I think it's one of those. But anyway,
Yeah.
that in itself is a story. The fact that because this guy is always happy for some reason. I don't know whatever it is.
I got the joy of the Lord in my heart. What can I say?
I wish I had it too.
I got the joy down in my heart. You know what I'm
No, I
It's
didn't go up in
amazing.
the church. Like, my idea of Christian music was like the last two songs on the Destiny's Child album.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a little. Yeah, sorry guys. Like, I embrace it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't my experience.
Oh, yeah,
It just
back-
wasn't
yeah.
my walk. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mum and dad were not my dad. My mum was Anglican.
Oh,
yeah.
true.
Yeah. So like, you know, that's like Anglican people. No offense, but they're like, we go to church sometimes for like baptisms and
True.
stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, it's part of your story.
I was gonna say. Yeah.
Totally, and I embrace it, man.
Yeah. I think I was listening to it was a long time ago. I heard Oprah Winfrey saying something to people about like your story and how your story is powerful. Like your story is the most powerful thing that you've got in the world, you know? Obviously, like you've got Christ, you've got other things
Yeah.
but like in terms of who you are as a person, your story and everything that you've been through, everything that you've experienced, whatever you've been through in life has the power to lead you to where you're meant to be. Yeah, as opposed to that being the death of you in a sense.
Yeah.
Even though in the moment it doesn't feel like, you know, that's what is, you know.
Yeah.
But you did say something very powerful, TK, when you spoke about you back in New Zealand. I think you're packing something with your sister in your room, and your sister says, this is something that's been amazing for me. Why would you take that? I was having a conversation with my mate who was going through like things, and they were going through their own episodes, and then they told me that, like, you know, people don't kind of understand that someone could be like, oh yeah, but like you've got everything, or like, yeah, but like, why would you do this to us or whatever. But and then she was telling me that it's not usually about other people, it's about me as a person and what I'm, you know, going through. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess it's harder to empathize with someone that is in a situation where they're kind of like at the, you know,
The lowest.
because everyone else knows exactly. Everyone, it's like your family, people around you kind of know, you know, why don't you just do this? But it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you're the one that's, it's like you're the one that's playing. Like if you're watching the game from outside, the person that's playing the game can't see things. They're in there, they're in their emotions, they're in their feels. But if I'm up like, yeah, but like you could have just crossed the ball to Messi and Messi could have scored. But like it's not that easy when someone's playing in the game, right?
Yeah.
So what are some words of encouragement that we can give to people that are like in situations where they may not have anyone to reach out to, like no one can really understand? Like, how do you go from a place where no one understands? Like TK had the boldness, she had the strength to be like, yo, I need to be better for my daughter, you know, but someone else might not have their daughter, might not have anyone, might not have like a strong family structure around them to even support them and to love on them. So how do they go from that to like, let me embrace this story, let me, you know?
Yeah.
Mic drop. Nah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me personally, my advice would be like keep talking. Keep talking, because the more that other people are aware, they're just aware now, you know? Like now we've got our eyes on you, you know? And even if you're like, but I don't have anybody to talk to, then you've got a phone, like you've got a social media, like you can use that too. And some people really look down on that, you know? Like I've done it a couple of times where I've like jumped on my social media, I'm like, guys, it's not a good day today, blah, blah, blah. And then I've had people reach out to me and go, you know, I wouldn't do that. Like, I feel like you just, it looks like you're like wanting people to feel sorry for you. I'm like, I don't really care what it looks like to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I know that what this has done for other people in my life. But when I was going through it, like, I didn't tell anybody. You know, I was very secretive about what I was really going through. And it put a lot of pressure on key people that I was telling. You know, because then it was like, I'm only going to tell like 3 people, but I'm going to tell you guys everything.
True.
And that's like a lot of weight for those 3 people to carry. But if you're just like going, you know what, I'm not so great today, like I'm not feeling, and it's not like you're owning it, it's not like you're going, yeah, I'm going to wallow in this fever, because I think that sometimes, like, you know, I think it's just really important that you continue to speak about it, continue to talk about it. The more that you do that, the more that there's going to be things that are offered, and just try everything. You know, if somebody says like, hey, listen, I've got this person that you can talk to, I don't know if they'll be able to help you, just like go for it. You know, try everything and don't give up. I think it's really important not to give up, because it's so easy to do that, but you're like cutting your story short, you know? Everything always gets really murky in the middle of the story before something good happens.
True.
So you got to push.
Follow-up question. I know, I'm sorry. Oh God, now I can't even remember what I was going to say.
Well, what you're thinking, to add on to what TK was saying, is the more you speak about it, the more you release. So for me, a thing that would help someone is find your release. Find something that's going to help you release whatever's holding you back, whatever you've kept deep inside your heart. Because the moment you start to release, you start to breathe. And it starts to come out. And then slowly, the more you speak about it, it doesn't have to be speaking. You could write it down.
Journaling and everything.
Exactly. You know, sometimes just writing a simple thing makes you feel better. You write it down on paper, you read through it, you're like, wow, that's my life now. How can I change it? You know, ideas start to flow. So find a release, be it exercise, be it talking to someone, be it writing, be it working on your cars, doing your hobby. So long as you have that release, it can take away the tension, can take away the feeling of being lost. It can take away you being at your lowest. It can take you from being here to that one step above.
And here's where my follow-up question comes in. As a man, there's always this expectation to be masculine and to be strong and to be firm and not to really show emotion, right? So how do I, speaking for myself, navigate like embracing my story and like going through things? Because if I went on Instagram like TK,
it would be a whole different.
It'll be a whole different story. Like people might not take me seriously. I might not get
the help that
Jerry knows what I mean. So so like how for men, how do we like, you know?
I think I mean, I'm not a man, so but at the same time, if I had a son, and I was raising my son to be you know, to be able to get through those kinds of moments, I would be basically reinforcing the fact that it's okay to cry, it's okay to break down, it's okay to do all of these things for a time, right? Because like those are natural human emotions, and they need to be expressed. You can't bottle these things up or feel shame because somebody else looks at you and goes, well, that's not a man. Do you know what I mean? Because they need to be more concerned with, you know, yourself. So I think it would be to, as long as it's genuine and it's honest and it's like real, somebody's going to relate to it. You know, you might think just like I thought. I really did think like that, you know? And I really did think that everybody was going to look at me and think, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Like, I would never, ever do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, turns out it was the opposite. I mean, there was definitely people out there that were like, wow, I would never do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, well, you know, there's lots of things that you would never do that I've done. So, sure.
So one more question. How do you beat the fear of man? Because it's always usually the fear of man, the fear of like, how do I open up to this person? What are they going to think? How do you actively defeat the fear of man?
I love that because my biggest struggle at the moment, so because my dad was famous, right, guys?
Yeah.
I had this, we had this facade. This is where the facade started, right? It was like, okay, when we go out, this is, you know, what we have to look like as a family. It was very put together, you know, and that wasn't necessarily, there was a lot of things that we had to hide about our lives. People couldn't know that. And then, so my reputation and what people thought of me was a key thing in my life. It was so important. So it, as an adult now, even now, like pertaining to work, for example, right? I could be like working my butt off, but if somebody said TK's lazy, like that's just gonna fixate with me. Like, oh my gosh, I look lazy to this person, you know. But if you like look at it from perspective, it's like, man, I've been working so hard, you know. But I opened up the Bible a couple of nights ago, and there was a Bible verse in there. I don't know which I don't know which one it is, guys. Sorry, I just opened it and there it was. But it was like. Why are you afraid of men? Essentially, you shouldn't be afraid of them. You should be afraid of me, basically. And I was like, wow, that it made me. It put things into perspective. Like, I can change their situation like that. So why are you afraid of them and what they have to say over your life? True. They don't have any say over your life. I have the say over your life. God does. So I think the most important thing is to just be honest, do whatever feels right to you. Like I knew deep down in my soul that it was a very heavy thing for me to carry. I needed to give it up. I don't know what, prompted me to, but I was just so sick of it. I was so over it. Like, the facade was annoying. Like the people that it was attracting it was not nice, and then so I just knew that it needed to happen. And I think that sometimes, like, for a man, if you guys are feeling like some type of way, you're getting bogged down, that it's like, it's not doing the right thing. And it might be that you just need to, like, reach out to your boys and just be like, you know what, I need to have an honest conversation with you.
And then Jerry's like, bro, you're a king, don't worry. Like, I'm not reaching out to Jerry.
In as much as my mic is off, I'll just say this to answer that question. Like, for the men, I think one thing that helps is, firstly, there's one wise thing that Josh, my brother, told me, and he said, you build connections when you don't need them. And I've run with that, I've stuck with that. So there's a lot of times, let's say as men, who's in your circle, the friends in your circle, can you look up to someone and say, hey, look, I'm going through it, can I talk to this person? You need to have father figures, first of all. You have people who are mentors. And I learned recently that your mentor doesn't have to be a friend. All right. A lot of times we think, I want to get along with my dad. That's amazing, yes. But you need people who can be like, hey man, like, look, let's go for the run. Let's, And there's times where like you need to actually be in that vulnerable space. Let it out. Be with a friend who you can cry with, you pray with, and everything like that. So I think one way is prepare for trouble before it comes. I've got like backup. I know like if I'm going through the biggest vulnerable time of my vulnerable life. Whatever
time of your life.
Yeah, the most vulnerable time of my life. I know I can reach out to these guys. If I need anything else in regards to whatever it is, I know I've got that kind of stature. But let's say, for example, people who may not have that system, it's small steps. I always say this, and I've been rebuked for.
There we go. Many ways to kill a cat.
Plenty ways to kill.
Horrible saying. I will keep saying this so long as you keep saying that.
There's plenty of ways to kill a cat, but essentially find little ways. Just
set a trap here and there. Poison the cat.
It's little ways, Try to go to the gym. Try to reach out to that one person. For men, a lot of times, because men are meant to be, meant to be alpha. If a man drops a tear, then it's like, it's supposed to be a man, which is amazing. A man is meant to be a man, right? But there's a fine line I feel. So it's little things. So prepare for trouble before it comes. That's being a savvy investor. That's being smart.
Yeah.
You don't hit the brakes when you run into someone.
Yeah.
You start slowing down when you see
You don't
trouble.
fatten the cow on the devil market.
But you can make the cow full before the.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
I see you, brother. All right.
That's my take on that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I like that.
Any thoughts, TK?
No, I like that. I mean, like I said, I'm not a man, so
Yeah, true, true.
I could have my perspective as a woman of
Yeah.
what I want from a man. That's very individual, you know. And it's also, I'm not a man. So.
True.
Okay, last question before we get to the quotes, right? So let's say
If I were a man, nah.
maybe the couples out there, and this is just a general question, right? So as a woman, right, for your man to be vulnerable to you, like pour out his chest to you, how do you respond to that? Are you like, hey babe, be a man? Like let's be
Yeah.
honest. Like what's your genuine response? Where do you expect your man to be a
'Cause-
man? And where do you allow room for that? You know, because there's times where a man can be whimpering and, you know, crying, but he's supposed to be a man. And there are times where it's like...
And then ladies can also use that against the man. Like,
Yeah, I think
So-
it really depends on like where your strengths are, you know.
True.
So like for me personally, I'm okay with emotions, you know. That's easy for me to navigate. So if, you know, my man was to be opening up to me and saying, "Hey, I'm really struggling with this. Like I feel depressed." The bro laughed. But yeah, if he was to say those things to me, you know, I'll be able to like listen, and that conversation would be quite comfortable for me to navigate. But say, for example, he was to say, "Hey, I'm really struggling financially," or whatever.
yeah.
That, on the other hand, is something that I'm still learning to be confident with. And that's something that I in my previous relationship, I handed over sole responsibility of finances to him.
Yeah.
So if he was to have that, I think that would be more difficult for me.
Yeah,
you know, I
true.
think that there would be an internal struggle with me, but like, you're the man, you're supposed to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just my real honest answer. Like, it really depends on where that vulnerability is coming
Yeah.
from and where I'm strong on myself. Because if it's a weakness on both sides, then obviously it's just going to be a catastrophe.
Absolutely.
I heard this video by Candace Owens where she was speaking about one of her previous relationships, and she was saying that she dated this guy that was very, very like weak in a sense, and then she was like, nah, like if our house is gonna get broken into at the middle of the night, she wants to be with a man that she's sure that he's going to defend her or whatever.
Yeah.
So this guy ticked all the boxes, but she
Except
broke
that.
up with him because he was a weak person. So apparently, according to her, like masculinity and like being a man and protecting your partner and whatever is a evolutionary like advantage for men. But hey, I'm just dropping that.
Just quoting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I mean, I feel quite confident in my ability to hold my own.
Yeah.
I actually remember this a funny story. So, we were in bed at our house, right?
Yeah.
And I had the blinds kind of so that they were just down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I had like pot plants or whatever in the way. And I just remember seeing these like big ass feet walk past. And
Yeah.
I was like, hey, wake up, there's somebody outside.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, there's someone. I was like, get up, there's someone outside. And then he was like, what? And I was like, get up, man, there's someone outside. Like, there's someone in our yard. And then he like gets up, right? And then I like get up behind him. I'm like walking up with him. He's like, TK, stay here. I'm like, now come on, let's go. He's going to get away. And then he was like, TK, stay here. And then I was like, bro, you're wasting time. Let's go. And then we get out there and it ends up being my flatmate. She's like, no, I'm sorry, guys. I left my key outside. But I remember him just turning around and looking at me and being like, and what exactly were you going to do? I was like, I don't know, I was going to do something. And he was like, oh my God.
Moral support.
Get him.
Yeah. That's good. Moral of your story: get yourself a girl like TK.
But I mean, if you're behind me, you know, if he was like, oh, go, babe, I'd be like,
Oh,
ouch.
true. Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. You know, you've got to be.
Yeah, you have to be able to
Check,
do
yeah,
something. But
yeah.
but I don't even know if I would like. I like that about him. There, he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, okay, stay in the room."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's just not me. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna stay in the room. I don't know what's happening to you.
Yeah.
You know. But like, yeah, if a man was like, "Oh, come, babe,"
Yeah. Jerry would be like, let's call the police.
You know that's so funny. You know that's so funny because knowing the way women. Nah,
We don't want another moment, bro.
no, let me just say. You know, it's so funny because a woman will be like, "Oh yeah, he should tell me to stay out," and if the man doesn't say stay out, you didn't tell me to stay out. You know, that becomes a huge problem. So I'm like, man, there's no winning in
We
this
can't win,
game.
yeah.
But it's amazing.
No, we might make it seem like you don't win, but
Yeah.
like for example, I didn't stay in the room,
Yeah.
but I appreciated that he
Yeah.
wanted me to.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's just not me. Like
Yeah.
I am that person that's
He's gonna fight.
It's like,
Yeah. Oh, we're fighting. Oh, we're fighting.
Let's go.
I think the advice out here to the men, from what I'm hearing, is it's alright to be vulnerable. It's alright to like let your guard down, but always remember that you're a man and you've got a responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When shit hits the fan, you should be able to like pick yourself up. Obviously, that looks a little bit ugly, and it's not the best appearance, but at the end of the day, we've got roles, and that's how we were created.
Yeah,
we
got
can't
true.
fight it. You know what I mean? And
That's
that's
true.
what we stand for. So I'm not the person who's like gonna be like, oh, because of this and that and that and that. Like that's what I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what this podcast kind of represents.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously as a woman, it's always amazing to be able to own to something. Like
Yeah.
be able to stand up where you can. You know, ask for help. That's amazing. All of that. It should all complement itself. Like everything should complement. And yeah,
Powerful.
I've learned so much from this episode.
It's been amazing.
guys.
Yeah.
I also think like guys to remember, like it's important to remember that in owning your story, there's always going to be somebody that disagrees.
Oh yeah, true.
There's
Oh,
always going to
definitely.
be somebody
Yeah.
that's like, well, I don't think you should have done it like that. I think
Yeah.
you should have done it like
If
this.
if no one disagrees, then you're owning the wrong
So
story.
there's a rule of 9, right?
Yeah.
In every situation, 3 people always agree, 3 people are going to disagree, and 3 people are going to be on the fence. But then as people, we always focus on the people that disagree more than the other people that actually don't even have an opinion about whatever it is.
Yeah, don't
deep.
let people's opinions
Yeah.
or people's perceptions, their words, whatever, interrupt
Yeah,
like your flow
true.
and your authenticity. If like, you know, you're feeling down and you tell somebody and they're like, whoa, like that's a lot,
Yeah.
then that's just the wrong person to
Yeah,
share
true.
with. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you should stop sharing. That just
That's
means that-
amazing. That's amazing. Yo. That's boss.
But yeah, I think that like that's just you're gonna navigate the world trying to find your people and all
Yeah.
of that sort of stuff, but you can't find your people if you're not honest about who you are.
True. Yeah.
That's true.
You're always just gonna find people that accept that version of you because that's the version that you put out there. So you know, if they don't agree, then they're not your people. And sometimes your people will disagree with you, but you know, respectfully.
True.
But yeah.
Who are you? What's your story? Shout out to our boy Anmore for doing the edits on this podcast. Shout out to Soft Life Australia.
Yeah.
Shout out to TK.
Shout out to TK for coming through.
TK Activewear and
Tekayactive, let's go.
Let's
We
go.
didn't get one, we got 2 in one shot. I feel like we are more than blessed.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
And I'm waiting for that men's collection so I can, you know.
I mean, you could still rock the women's collection, man.
Yo.
Yeah, you just look like the missing.
Or
Backstreet
this is
Boys
a
or
sign
something.
that you need to pull up your sleeves and find your missus and put on some TK.
Definitely, yeah. She's definitely going to wear some TK.
Yeah.
Thank
TK
you.
collection.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Any last words before we...
Coats.
Don't look around. Like,
Oh, you're expecting a code for me?
Yeah.
Towards the end of every episode, we do like quotes. I'll start with mine because I can tell this guy's a little bit sloppy. So my quote of the day is: believe in God before you believe in yourself.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So
Any quote.
any quote. Okay.
What did Tupac do?
Why would-
That's mine.
That's cheating.
come back to me. Sorry, I'm gonna think about it.
That's what it is.
It's okay to not be okay. Sometimes we need to break ourselves apart, to build stronger.
I would say don't set your life on sand, on people's opinions and what people think or whatever. Set your life on the rock. And what would Tupac do?
Damn it. I was going to say.
Oh, Tupac. I think from now on, I think I might shave my hair and get like just be like.
I mean, that's a great quote because Tupac was a very
True.
he was a very diverse character.
Yeah.
He
It's
was.
amazing because like he would one moment he could be like a gangster hustler.
Yeah.
The next he could have the biggest heart. You know.
Yeah.
Next, he could be a poet.
Yeah, true.
To be fighting someone.
Yeah.
So.
Civil rights activist,
True.
all the things.
He was
Oh
everything.
yeah.
He was, that's a good one.
Rest in peace, Tupac Shakur.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mine is it's okay to be a work in progress. Like I think we get really fixated on being a finished product, but
Yeah.
we really need to embrace the journey, and embrace our own journey.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah, so that's mine.
That's amazing. Thank you a lot, TK.
Thank you for having me, guys.
And
Yeah. Thank you for gracing us with your presence and your story.
Thank you.
I'm inspired. Everyone is inspired. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been great.